EVC. EVC.
So my 20 years in the fashion industry basically started off from moving out of my parents' house at the age of 18 and then making kind of garments for friends that were going raving. I was never the raving type. I always used to stay at home once I'd made the garment for them. So they would sit there whilst I was making probably a dress. And then from that point, I built on my career to start selling to Topshop and ASOS, and that was after I graduated. So my mum taught me how to sew, and I guess I taught myself. I spent a good 2-3 years literally not going out and then taking garments apart and putting them back together. And then I had a good friend called Sean, and he would spend 3 or 4 evenings with me teaching me some really vital techniques on sewing. One of the things that really helped me learn how to sew was I used to go to Primark and buy garments and then unpick them bit by bit, and then I'd press it all nicely and then I'd copy the pattern. And then because I've seen how the garments meant to look at the end, I would then try and recreate that construction myself, because I guess I've seen the correct order in which the garment should be made. So the rest is basically practice. So my tip would be take the garments apart, put them back together 10 times, 20 times, or 50 times. Repetition is going to be key to you learning how to sew to a top level. So I'm very much a quiet person. I think I'm the opposite of what a fashion designer should be. I grew up in a household where you weren't really meant to talk much. I had a very strict father. My mum she wasn't strict, but she grew up in the West African kind of way of doing things. So kids were meant to kind of be docile. And what I found with fashion is that I could be as expressive as I wanted to be. So it took me a long time to become the vocal person that I am. And my confidence comes from the fact that I know that my work is of a good standard. Yeah, and because I've been in this business for such a long time, I've seen a lot of things. So I'm someone that very much trusts my gut instincts. So I'd say being a fashion designer, I'm probably the least flamboyant person that you'll come across. My wife buys a lot of my clothes actually, or the ones that I don't make. But my angle is always about the fashion business side of things. I'm generally not someone that goes to networking parties. I'm a bit socially awkward in that way. I prefer to be in the studio working on my craft, creating a vision, and being comfortable to make mistakes. So in 2009, when I lost my first business, I spent a couple of years lecturing and then started again really. Started on my own. I knew this time it would be much harder, but I had the tools needed to succeed. And this time around I was going to do it much better because I'd learned from so many mistakes. And then I eventually got some work at Alexander McQueen, which led on to me working for Kanye West, Victoria Beckham, Roland Murray, and Ralph Russo, as well as Adidas and Sportscraft. So my career has covered high street and high-end fashion. So being a boss has been quite taxing really, because there's a lot on social media that talks about, being a boss has been the be-all and end-all. And not many people talk about the realities of being a boss. It's very lonely. Most times you're worrying about stuff. And sometimes you kind of have mood swings because you read an email one moment you're happy, and then you read that email, and then the next moment it kind of changes your mood. So there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. I would say that to anyone that wants to run a fashion brand, you really need to trust your instinct. You need to be willing to work with people and listen to people. I find that I am more the caretaker for the business than the boss, because I'm having to serve my staff. And if I don't look after them, then they won't be there for me in terms of creating these beautiful outfits. So I've got two beautiful daughters, Nia and Brielle, and being a father has been an incredible experience. There are certain tough moments as well, having the responsibility of running a brand and then being a father as well as a husband. That comes with its challenges, but hopefully they will say that I'm doing a great job. So I've been fortunate enough to win a few awards. The first one was in 2009. I was one of the 4 finalists of the DHL and British Fashion Council Design Potential Award. So in 2021, I was chosen for an award, which was the Outstanding Achievement by the African Fashion Awards. And that was for my services within fashion for the past 2 decades. And that was an incredible honour. Because that really gave credibility to the work that my team and I and my wife and my daughters have been doing in just supporting my vision. So the many projects that I worked on the one of the Paris collections for Alexander McQueen. I worked on a project for Kanye West, but I think it was for the London 2012 Games. I got invited to work alongside Adidas and Sportscraft on the uniforms for the Australian Olympic team. And this was really outside of my comfort zone, very different to what I'd normally been used to doing, making beautiful dresses. And obviously this stuff was sportswear. So aside from meeting the majority of the Australian team, I got to walk home with a lot of freebies from Adidas that I literally had to take a cab home. I've given away most of the stuff anyway because it was so much, far more than I could have ever used myself. But it was a great privilege and honour to work on that project. Do you know, another project I forgot I worked on was I used to teach, and I worked with, I think it was Newham College, teaching some of their partially disabled students how to sew. And that was really fun for me, and that was a project I would have done without being paid, because some of the work that they produced was just exceptional, considering they had various disabilities, and I was just in awe of how creative they were, how creative their minds were, and just seeing what they were able to achieve really inspired me to keep going and doing the work that I do within the fashion industry. So I've got so many dreams that I want to achieve in fashion. I'd say one of them would be, one of them I recently achieved, and that's designing uniforms for a prestigious restaurant chain in London. So I've always wanted to follow in the footsteps of Oswald Boateng, Vivienne Westwood and Stella McCartney, where they design uniforms for pretty high-end, well-established brands. Now I've already achieved one of my lifelong dreams, and that's having my own factory. But I feel that designing a uniform for a well-established label that will put me on an international scale and really take me to my dream status.